Selina was supposed to arrive at Ironcrest as a punishment, a rejected Luna thrown away like scraps. But the moment Alpha Reece sees her, the brutal warlord feared across the continent drops to his knees. Because the moon goddess whispers the truth. The treasure he has spent his entire life searching for is the girl who is sent to him to be destroyed. And Ironcrest does not destroy treasures. Ironcrest protects them. The carriage door slammed shut behind Selina, sealing her inside like a prisoner delivered for execution. Her wrists trembled in her lap, not from cold, but from the knowledge of what awaited her at journey's end. A punishment. That was what her family called her. A disgrace they were finally rid of. Alpha Reece can do whatever he wants with you, her mother had sneered while servants stuffed her into a plain dress. Maybe he'll put your uselessness to good use. The carriage lurched forward. Selina didn't argue. She hadn't argued in months, not since her first mate rejected her in front of the entire Silvercrest pack and left her standing alone at the mating altar. After that day, her family stopped seeing her as blood. They saw her as a stain. Hours passed. Mountains rose like dark teeth. Smoke from Ironcrest's torches stained the horizon. The closer they got, the louder her wolf curled inward in fear. Ironcrest. Land of monsters. Land of a brutal alpha known for destroying enemies with his bare hands. The perfect place to throw away a defective daughter. The guards dragged her out when they arrived. Torchlight painted the massive gates in gold and shadow. Wolves patrolled, silent and disciplined, watching her like a threat or prey. Selina's knees nearly buckled as she was pushed into the throne hall. He was there. Alpha Reece. A towering figure seated on a stone throne, broad-shouldered, scarred, golden-eyed, radiating a power that made the hall tremble. His beta whispered something to him, but Reece was not listening. Because he had seen her. The moment their eyes met, the world went silent. Reece rose slowly, like a beast awakening from centuries of sleep. His nostrils flared. His jaw clenched. His wolf surged so violently it crackled in the air. Her, he breathed. His guard stiffened. Reece stepped off the throne and walked toward her with a look Selina had never been given, not by family, not by suitors, not even by her first mate. A look of recognition. A look of awe. A look of possession. He stopped inches from her, voice shaking with something primal. Moon goddess, she's mine. The hall erupted into confusion. Selina flinched back. No, that can't be. I was already rejected. Reece silenced her gently, lifting her chin with one finger. You were rejected by a fool. His golden eyes glowed fiercely. Not by fate. He turned to the entire hall, voice echoing like a command from the heavens. She stays. She is mine. Selina's vision blurred. The ground shifted beneath her. The rejected Luna fainted not from fear, but from hearing the one thing she had believed she would never hear again. That she was wanted. And as she fell, Reece caught her before she touched the floor, holding her as if she were the most precious treasure ever placed in his arms. Selina had braced herself for cold stone floors and iron shackles. She'd expected to be thrown into a cell, or worse, paraded before Ironcrest's pack as a trophy of conquest. Instead, Alpha Reece carried her through corridors lined with torches that cast warm, dancing shadows on polished wood panels. She kept her body rigid in his arms, refusing to relax against the solid wall of his chest despite the exhaustion pulling at her limbs. Warriors stepped aside as they passed, their heads bowing in deference, not to their alpha, she realized with growing confusion, but to her. Their eyes held curiosity, perhaps even reverence, but none of the contempt she'd grown accustomed to seeing in her own pack. Where are you taking me? The question escaped before she could stop it, her voice hoarse from disuse. Somewhere you'll be safe, Reece answered simply, his tone carrying none of the cruelty she'd been taught to expect from Ironcrest wolves. They climbed a spiraling staircase, and Selina caught glimpses through tall windows of Ironcrest's territory sprawling below. Vast forests, neat clusters of homes with smoke curling from chimneys, wolves moving about with purpose and ease. It looked nothing like the war-torn wasteland Darius had always described. The lies were stacking up too high to ignore. Reece shouldered open a heavy oak door, revealing a suite that stole what little breath Selina had left. The room was bathed in soft firelight, spacious and furnished with care. A four-poster bed dominated the space, its linens pristine and inviting. Thick carpets covered the floor, and tapestries depicting wolves running beneath full moons adorned the walls. Everything spoke of comfort, of value. She swallowed hard. This can't be for me. It is. Reece set her down carefully on a cushioned settee near the hearth, as though she might shatter. Wait here. Before she could protest, he'd stepped into the hallway. Selina heard his low murmur of commands, followed by quick footsteps. Within moments, two women entered healers, judging by the leather satchels they carried and the gentle authority in their movements. Alpha's orders, the older woman said softly, kneeling beside Selina without touching her. We're here to tend your injuries, if you'll allow us. If you'll allow us, asterisk. The words made Selina's throat tighten. No one had ever asked her permission for anything. She nodded mutely, unable to trust her voice. Reece had withdrawn to the doorway, his massive frame filling the space. Treat her with the reverence she deserves, he said quietly, his eyes meeting those of the healers. She's been through more than any wolf should endure. Then he left, pulling the door closed behind him. The healers worked with practiced efficiency, cleaning wounds that had festered under Darius's neglect, applying salves that cooled the ache in her bones, wrapping fresh bandages around injuries both old and new. They didn't ask questions about the scars that mapped her skin like a history of pain. They didn't flinch or whisper. They simply cared for her. There now, the younger healer sat in when they'd finished, offering a genuine smile. You'll feel better after some rest. We'll check on you tomorrow. Alone again, Selina stared at the flames crackling in the hearth. Her mind spun with contradictions. This couldn't be real, this warmth, this gentleness. It had to be a trap, some elaborate cruelty designed to break her in new and inventive ways. But if it was a trap, why did her wolf feel so calm for the first time in years? Beyond the door, Reece found his beta waiting in the corridor. Marcus had been his closest friend since childhood, the only wolf who'd stood beside him through every challenge to his authority, every hard decision that came with leading Arncrest. Well, Marcus asked, his voice low. Is it true? Is she my mate? Reece exhaled the words like a prayer finally answered. The moon goddess gave me what I've sought for years, Marcus. After all this time searching, she was right there in Shadowfang's territory. Marcus's expression shifted from surprise to concern. In what condition did you find her? Reece's jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists at his sides. Broken. Starved. Beaten. That bastard Darius treated his own pack member, his own blood, like something less than dirt. His voice dropped to a growl. If he weren't already dead, I'd kill him myself for what he did to her. What do you want me to do? Station guards at the end of the corridor. Not to keep her in, Reece clarified quickly, but to ensure no one disturbs her. Spread word through the pack that she's under my direct protection. Anyone who shows her anything less than respect will answer to me personally. Marcus nodded, then hesitated. Reece, she's terrified. I saw it in her eyes. Whatever you feel for her, she's not going to trust it easily. I know. Reece turned back toward the door, his hand resting briefly against the wood. That's why I'll give her time. Space. Whatever she needs. I've waited years for my mate. I can wait as long as it takes for her to feel safe. True to his word, Reece didn't force his presence on her. Over the following days, Selina discovered a routine she'd never experienced: freedom. Servants brought trays of food 3 times daily, real food, not scraps, and left them with soft words and kind smiles. Hot baths were drawn without her asking. Fresh clothes appeared in the wardrobe, simple but well-made, nothing like the rags she'd worn in Shadowfang. She ate mechanically at first, waiting for the trap to spring. But the food wasn't drugged. The clothes weren't meant to humiliate her. The baths weren't a prelude to punishment. She was simply cared for. Each night, as the moon climbed high, Selina heard footsteps approach her door. They'd pause there, just on the other side of the threshold, and she'd hold her breath, waiting for the handle to turn. But it never did. After a long moment, the footsteps would retreat, fading back down the corridor. Reece never entered, never demanded, never took what he could have easily claimed by right of being alpha. The realization unsettled her more than any cruelty could have. On the third morning, Selina gathered enough courage to venture beyond her room. She moved slowly through the corridors, expecting challenge or confrontation. Instead, wolves she passed nodded respectfully, some even offering soft greetings. "Good morning, Luna," an elderly wolf said as she passed, the title falling easily from his lips. Selina froze. Luna. They were calling her Luna. They didn't know who she was, the worthless Shadow Fang wolf, the one without a wolf, the cousin beaten and discarded. They only knew what Reece had shown them, that she mattered, that she held value. The weight of it pressed against her chest, simultaneously terrifying and intoxicating. She found herself drawn to a window overlooking the training grounds, where wolves sparred and laughed, where pups tumbled over each other in play, where life continued with a lightness Shadow Fang had never possessed. This was supposed to be the enemy, the pack of savages and killers. But all she saw was a family. It's different here, isn't it? Selina spun, finding Reece standing a respectful distance away, his hands clasped behind his back. He didn't approach, didn't invade her space, just watched her with those storm-colored eyes that seemed to see straight through every defense she'd built. "Why?" The word broke from her. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you deserve it," he said simply. "Because the moon goddess chose you for me, and I've waited too long to treat that gift with anything less than the honor it deserves." Selina wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong, that she deserved nothing. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, she turned back to the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass, a girl she barely recognized, wearing clean clothes, with healing wounds and questions blooming where hopelessness used to live. Behind her, Reece remained a quiet presence, guarding without imprisoning, protecting without possessing. And for the first time in years, Selina wondered if perhaps the moon goddess hadn't abandoned her after all. The screams always started the same way. Selina found herself back in Shadowfang's ceremonial hall, dressed in the white gown that had taken her weeks to sew. Darius stood before the gathered pack, his face twisted with disgust as he raised his hand. The words fell like blows. "I, Darius Blackthorn, reject you, Selina Ashford, as my mate, and Luna." The pain came next. A tearing sensation in her chest, as though her soul were being ripped apart at the seams. Her wolf howled, then fell silent. Forever silent. But in the nightmare, it never ended. The rejection played on an endless loop, the agony fresh each time, the laughter of the pack echoing until it became a physical weight crushing her lungs. Selina woke gasping, her sheets tangled around her legs, sweat cooling on her skin. Dawn light filtered through the curtains, soft and forgiving. She pressed her palms against her eyes, willing her racing heart to slow. 3 weeks in Arncrest, and the nightmares hadn't loosened their grip. A gentle knock sounded at her door. "Selina? May I enter?" She recognized the voice, Mira, the elder wolf who'd been assigned to help her adjust to Arncrest. Not a servant, Mira had insisted that first morning, but a friend of Selina would have her. "Come in," Selina called, her voice still rough from sleep. Mira entered carrying a tray with tea and fresh bread, her silver-streaked hair braided in an intricate pattern. She'd been teaching Selina the meanings behind such braids, how different styles denoted rank, occasion, and pack affiliation. Small lessons, but they'd given Selina something to focus on beyond her own fractured thoughts. "Another difficult night?" Mira asked gently, setting the tray on the small table by the window. Selina nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Mira had become skilled at reading her silences. The mind takes time to heal, just as the body does. Mira poured tea with steady hands. "But you're stronger than you believe, child. I see it in the way you show up each day, even when fear tells you to hide." The words settled somewhere deep in Selina's chest, a warmth she didn't quite know what to do with. They spent the morning in the library, where Mira continued Selina's education in pack customs and Luna responsibilities. Selina learned about dispute resolution, about the sacred duty of protecting pack members, about the healing arts that had been passed down through generations of Ironcrest women. A Luna is not simply the Alpha's mate, Mira explained, running her finger along the spine of an ancient text. She is the heart of the pack. Where the Alpha provides strength and protection, the Luna offers compassion and wisdom. Both are necessary. Both hold equal power. Equal power. The concept felt foreign on Selina's tongue. In Shadowfang, power had belonged solely to Darius, and he'd wielded it like a weapon. But I'm not really a Luna, Selina said quietly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Mira's expression softened. That choice is yours to make. Alpha Reece has made his intentions clear, but he's given you something rare: time and freedom. Use them wisely. The afternoon found Selina in the healing wing, learning to prepare poultices and tinctures under the guidance of the pack healers. Her hands, once used only for scrubbing floors and absorbing blows, discovered they had aptitude for gentler work. The precise measuring of herbs, the careful grinding of roots, it required focus that left little room for darker thoughts. You have a natural touch, the head healer, Elena, remarked as Selina finished binding a wound on a young wolf who'd injured himself during training. Have you done this before? No, Selina admitted. In my old pack, I wasn't allowed near the healing wing. Elena's jaw tightened, but she only nodded. Well, you're welcome here anytime. We could use another skilled pair of hands. The validation shouldn't have mattered so much. Yet Selina carried it with her like a talisman as she returned to her room that evening. She found a note slipped under her door, written in strong, angular script. The moon is full tonight. Would you walk with me in the gardens? No obligation, only an invitation. Her first instinct was to refuse. But something in the careful phrasing, the acknowledgement that she could say no, made her pause. Reece had kept his distance these past weeks, never pushing, never demanding. He'd simply existed as a steady presence at the periphery of her new life. Perhaps she owed him at least a conversation. She found him waiting at the garden entrance as the moon rose, dressed simply in dark trousers and a loose shirt. He smiled when he saw her, relief evident in the relaxation of his shoulders. Thank you for coming, he said. I wasn't sure you would. Neither was I, Selina admitted. They walked in silence at first, following paths lined with night-blooming jasmine and moonflowers. The garden sprawled across the eastern side of the pack house, carefully tended but allowed enough wildness to feel natural. Water trickled somewhere nearby, a stream cutting through the landscape. This was my mother's favorite place, Reece said eventually. She designed most of it herself. Said Aluna needed somewhere beautiful to think. Selina glanced at him. She's gone. 5 years now. Rogues attacked while she was traveling to a neighboring pack for a peace summit. His voice remained steady, but pain flickered across his features. My father died defending her. They're buried together beneath that oak. He gestured to a massive tree at the garden's heart, its branches spreading like protective arms. Moonlight caught on 2 simple stone markers nestled among its roots. I'm sorry, Selina said, the words inadequate but sincere. I tell you this not for sympathy, Reece continued, turning to face her, but because I want you to understand. I know what it is to lose everything that makes you feel whole. I know the weight of grief, the way trauma reshapes you into someone you don't recognize. Something in Selina's chest cracked, a small fissure in the walls she'd built. How did you survive it? Poorly at first. I was angry, reckless. Nearly got myself killed in a dozen stupid ways. He paused, his gaze distant. But eventually I realized that the best way to honor them was to become the kind of alpha they'd raised me to be. Strong, yes, but also compassionate. Fair. Someone who protected rather than dominated. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Selina felt exposed in a way that should have terrified her but somehow didn't. You've survived things that would have broken most wolves, Reece said quietly. Not just survived, you're still here, still fighting to reclaim yourself. That takes a strength I deeply admire. Selina's breath caught. No one had ever called her strong. Worthless, yes. Weak, constantly. But never strong. I don't feel strong, she whispered. Strength isn't the absence of fear or pain. It's continuing despite them. Something stirred in Selina's chest, a flutter, faint but unmistakable. Her wolf, silent for so long, shifted in the depths of her consciousness. Not fully awake, but no longer completely dormant either. The sensation shocked her so thoroughly that she stumbled. Reece's hand shot out to steady her, his touch warm even through her sleeve. He released her immediately, giving her space. Are you all right? I felt. Selina pressed a hand to her chest, hardly daring to believe it. My wolf. Just for a moment, I felt her. Wonder transformed Reece's expression. She's healing. You're healing. Tears burned behind Selina's eyes. She'd thought that part of herself lost forever, killed by Darius's rejection and the subsequent abuse. But maybe, just maybe, some broken things could be mended. I need time, she said, the words coming out stronger than she'd intended. I'm not ready to be anyone's mate. I'm barely ready to be myself. I know. Reece's voice held no judgment, no disappointment. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere, and neither is the bond between us. When you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. And if you're never ready, I'll still protect you, still ensure you have a place in this pack. You have choices now, Selina. Real choices. That's what I can give you. They stood in the moonlight, two damaged souls finding unexpected solace in each other's understanding. And though Selina couldn't bring herself to touch him, couldn't let down all her guards, she felt something shift inside her. Not trust, not yet. But perhaps the beginning of hope. And for now, that was enough. The child's scream cut through the afternoon air like a blade. Selina was crossing the training grounds when she saw the small form crumpled near the obstacle course, blood streaming from a gash on his leg. The pup, no more than 7, sobbed while older wolves rushed toward him, their faces etched with concern. Her feet moved before her mind caught up. Years of being invisible in Shadowfang had taught her to fade into corners, to avoid notice. But something deeper pulled her forward now, some instinct she didn't recognize. She reached the pup first, dropping to her knees beside him. Let me see, she said gently, her healer's training kicking in. The boy's tear-streaked face turned toward her, fear and pain mingling in his wide eyes. It hurts, he whimpered. I know, sweetheart. But I'm going to help you. Selina's hands moved with the steady confidence Elena had been teaching her, assessing the wound. Deep, but clean. She pulled the bandages she'd taken to carrying from her pocket, a habit formed from weeks in the healing wing. The crowd of wolves had formed a respectful circle around them, but no one interfered. They watched as Selina cleaned the wound with water from someone's flask, applied pressure to stop the bleeding, then wrapped it with practiced efficiency. You're very brave, she told the pup as she worked. Much braver than I was at your age. Really? His sobs had quieted to hiccups. Really? Now, this needs proper stitching, so we'll get you to Elena. But you're going to be just fine. She looked up at the nearest adult wolf. Can someone carry him to the healing wing? I've got him. A warrior stepped forward, lifting the pup with gentle care. But before he left, he met Selina's eyes. Thank you, Luna. You have a healer's touch. Luna. The title still felt strange, but less so each time she heard it. After they'd gone, Selina became aware of the other wolves still watching her. Not with suspicion or mockery, but with something that looked remarkably like respect. That was well done, an older female said, stepping forward. I'm Kara, the head of the pack mothers. We oversee the pup's welfare and education. I just did what anyone would do, Selina said quietly. No. Kara's expression was kind but firm. You did what a Luna does. You put a pack member's need before your own comfort, acted with skill and compassion, and brought calm to chaos. That's leadership, child. The words lodged somewhere in Selina's chest, too big to fully process. Over the following days, something shifted in how Arncrest's wolves approached her. It started small, a nod from a warrior as she passed, a smile from a mother in the market. But it grew. Females began seeking her out, first with tentative greetings, then with requests for counsel. "My daughter won't speak to me since her first shift," a worried mother confided one afternoon. "I don't know how to reach her." Selina, who'd expected to have no wisdom to offer, found herself drawing on her own painful experiences. "After my first shift, everything felt too big, too overwhelming. Maybe she needs space to discover her wolf without feeling judged. Let her know you're there when she's ready." The mother's eyes had filled with grateful tears. "Thank you, Luna. That makes sense." Another day, a young female approached her in the gardens. "I'm being courted by 2 males, and I don't know how to choose without hurting someone." "Then choose based on who makes you feel strongest, not smallest," Selina said, surprised by the certainty in her own voice. "Choose the one who sees you as an equal, not a prize." Word spread. Selina began to understand that Arncrest had been without a Luna for 5 years, 5 years of pack females navigating their lives without that particular guidance, that maternal presence at the pack's heart. They were starving for it, and somehow, impossibly, they decided she could fill that void. She didn't feel qualified. But she showed up anyway. Reece watched from a distance, though she felt his gaze often. He attended training sessions where she'd taken to observing, learning the rhythms of pack defense. He lingered near the dining hall when she ate with groups of females, their laughter carrying through the evening air. He never interrupted, never inserted himself, but his presence had become a constant, steady and unexpectedly comforting. One afternoon, Selina found herself in the library researching territorial dispute protocols when a burst of female laughter from the courtyard drew her attention. Through the window, she saw Reece speaking with a young female warrior, their conversation animated. The female touched his arm, smiling up at him with obvious admiration. Something hot and sharp twisted in Selina's gut. She turned back to her book with more force than necessary, the pages crackling. What was that feeling? Anger? No, something more primitive, more possessive. The realization hit her like cold water. She was jealous. But that made no sense. She hadn't claimed Reece, hadn't accepted the mate bond. She'd kept him at arm's length for weeks. She had no right to feel territorial about him. Yet the feeling persisted, a growl building in her chest that her still-healing wolf seemed to echo. Later that evening, Selina couldn't settle. She found herself walking the corridors, restless in a way she didn't understand. Her feet carried her toward Reece's study, though she told herself she was just passing by. She found him at his desk, papers spread before him, his head in his hands. He looked exhausted in a way she'd never seen, not physically tired, but soul-weary. She should have walked away. Instead, she knocked softly on the doorframe. Reece's head snapped up, surprise flickering across his features before settling into something warmer. "Selina, come in." She hesitated at the threshold. "I don't want to disturb you." "You could never disturb me." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Please." Selina entered, settling into the offered seat. The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. She studied him in the firelight. The strong line of his jaw, the silver threading through his dark hair at the temples, the weight of leadership evident in every line of his face. "You look troubled," she said finally. Reece laughed, but it held no humor. "Is it that obvious?" "To someone who knows what haunted looks like, yes." He leaned back, his eyes finding hers. "I've been thinking about something I haven't let myself dwell on in years. A fear I carried for so long, it became part of me." "What fear?" "That I'd live my whole life without finding my mate." The confession emerged quietly, vulnerable in a way that made Selina's breath catch. "After my parents died, after I searched for years with no sign of a bond, I started to believe the moon goddess had forgotten me. That I'd spend my existence protecting others' happiness while never experiencing my own." Selina's hands tightened in her lap. She understood that particular darkness intimately. The belief that joy existed for everyone except you. "I watched pack members find their mates, watched them build families, and I was happy for them," Reece continued. "But there was always this hollow space inside me. This certainty that I was meant to be alone." "But you found me," Selina whispered. But I found you. His smile was gentle, edged with wonder. And you were in such pain, had suffered so much. Part of me wanted to rage at the moon goddess for making you wait so long, for allowing you to be hurt. But another part of me understood that maybe we both needed to walk through our respective hells to truly appreciate finding each other. Something cracked in Selina's chest, a wall she'd been maintaining through sheer force of will. She saw herself reflected in his words, the isolation, the certainty of being unwanted, the slow death of hope. "I'm afraid," she admitted, the words escaping before she could stop them. "I'm afraid that if I let myself believe in this, in us, it will be taken away. That I'll wake up and discover it was all some cruel dream." Reece stood, moving around the desk. He knelt before her chair, putting himself at eye level without touching her. "I can't promise that nothing will ever hurt you again. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise that I will never be the source of that pain. I can promise that I see you, not as something broken to be fixed, but as someone strong who deserves to be cherished." Tears slipped down Selina's cheeks. "I don't know how to be cherished. Then let me teach you. However long it takes." And there, in the firelight of his study, Selina felt something fundamental shift. Her wolf stirred again, stronger this time, pressing against her consciousness with approval and longing. The mate bond she'd been holding at bay pulsed between them, golden and inevitable. She wasn't ready to accept it fully. Not yet. But for the first time, she could imagine a future where she might be. "Thank you," she whispered. "For being patient. For being kind." "Thank you," Reece replied, "for not giving up. On yourself, or on the possibility of us." He returned to his desk, and Selina stayed a while longer, the comfortable silence between them speaking of understanding too deep for words. When she finally left, she felt his gaze follow her, protective, devoted, and willing to wait as long as she needed. And in her chest, her wolf hummed with something that felt dangerously close to contentment. The messenger arrived at dawn, his shadow fong scent polluting Arncrest's clean air. Selina was breaking her fast with Mira and several pack females when the commotion in the entrance hall reached them. The conversation died as wolves turned toward the disturbance, tension rippling through the room like a physical force. Then she heard his voice, and her blood turned to ice. "I demand to see Alpha Reece. I come on official pack business. Darius." Selina's hands began to shake, the teacup rattling against its saucer. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to make herself invisible the way she'd learned to in his presence. But Myra's hand closed over hers, warm and steady. "You are not in Shadowfong anymore," the older woman said quietly. "You are Luna of Arncrest, and you bow to no one, especially not him." The words anchored her. Selina stood, her legs unsteady but holding. The females around her rose as well, forming an unconscious protective circle. She made her way to the entrance hall, each step an act of defiance against the fear threatening to consume her. The crowd parted for her, and then she saw him. Darius stood in the center of the hall, flanked by two warriors. He looked exactly as she remembered, handsome in a cruel way, his dark eyes holding the cold calculation that had once made her believe he might accept her. Now those eyes found her, and something like satisfaction crossed his features. "Selina, you're looking well. Arncrest has treated you better than you deserved." The casual cruelty in his tone sparked something hot in her chest. Before she could respond, Reece's presence filled the doorway to her left. He moved with predatory grace, placing himself between her and Darius with deliberate intent. "You have 30 seconds to state your business before I remove you from my territory," Reece said, his voice carrying the weight of an alpha command. Darius's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. "I've come to retrieve what belongs to Shadowfong. The peace treaty between our packs was contingent on certain conditions, including the exchange of—" "She is not a bargaining chip," Reece growled. "Try again." "Let me rephrase." Darius's smile turned ugly. "There's been concern among the Council of Alphas about the circumstances of our treaty. Some believe the transaction was incomplete. I'm here to rectify that by taking my cousin back to Shadowfong where she belongs." "Your rejected mate, you mean?" Marcus had appeared at Reece's shoulder, his expression hard. The one you cast aside in front of your entire pack. That cousin. A murmur rippled through the assembled Ironcrest wolves. Selina felt their anger on her behalf, their solidarity wrapping around her like armor. A mistake I'm willing to correct, Darius said smoothly. For political appearances, of course. The rejection can be overlooked. The audacity of it stole Selina's breath. He thought he could simply take back the rejection that had nearly destroyed her? Reclaim her now that she'd found value elsewhere? No. The word emerged from Selina's throat, quiet but absolute. Darius's attention snapped to her. Excuse me? No, Selina repeated, stepping around Reece despite his protective stance. Her wolf had surged fully awake now, lending her strength. You don't get to do this. You don't get to reject me, abuse me, treat me like garbage for years, and then decide I'm worth retrieving when it's politically convenient. Selina, Darius's tone held warning. I'm not finished. Her voice grew stronger with each word. You stood before your pack and severed our bond. You told me I was worthless, that I didn't deserve to be your mate. And you were right. Shock flickered across multiple faces, but Selina pressed on. I didn't deserve to be your mate. Because I deserve so much better than you could ever be. I deserve someone who sees my strength instead of my scars. Someone who offers protection instead of pain. Someone who understands that power isn't about domination, but about lifting others up. Reece had gone completely still beside her, his attention fixed on her with an intensity that should have been frightening, but instead felt like coming home. You rejected me, Selina continued, stepping closer to Darius despite the danger. You don't get a second chance. You don't get to waltz into Ironcrest and claim ownership of something you threw away. I am not Shadowfang's property. I am not your political tool. I am a wolf who survived everything you did to break me, and I'm still standing. Darius's expression had darkened to something murderous. You ungrateful. He lunged. Reece moved like lightning, intercepting Darius mid-strike. They crashed together with bone-jarring force, a tangle of fury and alpha dominance. Reece's fist connected with Darius's jaw, sending him sprawling. Before Darius could recover, Reece was on him, one hand wrapped around his throat. You dare, Reece snarled, his wolf bleeding into his voice, turning it bestial. You dare come into my territory and threaten my mate? Darius gasped, his face reddening. Around them, Ironcrest warriors had drawn weapons, while Darius's 2 escorts found themselves outnumbered 20-1. Selina saw the killing intent in Reece's eyes. She'd seen enough death, enough violence. And she realized with sudden clarity that she didn't want Darius's blood on Reece's hands, not because Darius deserved mercy, but because Reece deserved better than to be haunted by this moment. Reece. She placed her hand on his shoulder, feeling the tremor of barely contained rage beneath her palm. Reece, stop. His head turned toward her, his eyes more wolf than man. He tried to hurt you. And he failed. Because I'm not alone anymore. I'm not defenseless. She squeezed his shoulder gently. Let him go. Let him crawl back to Shadowfang and live with the knowledge that he lost something precious, because he was too stupid to recognize its value. For a long moment, Reece didn't move. Then, slowly, his hand loosened. Darius collapsed to the floor, gasping and coughing. Reece stood, his attention never leaving Selina's face. Get out, he said to Darius, his voice cold as winter. Tell your council that Selina Ashford is under my protection as my mate and future Luna. Any attempt to remove her will be considered an act of war. Am I understood? Darius climbed to his feet, hate radiating from every line of his body. But he was smart enough to recognize when he'd lost. He turned to Selina one final time. You'll regret this. No, Selina said calmly. The only thing I regret is believing I deserve the way you treated me. Now I know better. He left, his warriors trailing behind him, and the hall erupted in approval. Pack members crowded around Selina, offering words of support and pride. But she barely heard them. Her eyes found Reece through the crowd, and the look on his face made her heart stutter. He was watching her like she'd hung the moon. Hours later, after the excitement had died and night had fallen, Selina found herself drawn to the gardens once more. The moon hung full and bright overhead, illuminating the paths she'd walked with Reece weeks ago. She found him standing beneath his mother's oak tree, his face tilted toward the sky. He sensed her approach, of course he did, but didn't turn until she stood beside him. "You were magnificent today," he said quietly. "I was terrified," Selina admitted. "Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." He echoed his own words from their earlier conversation. "You stood up to the man who broke you, Selina. You reclaimed your power. Because you gave me a safe place to find it again." She took a breath, gathering her courage. "Because you showed me what I deserve. What real strength looks like." Reece turned to face her fully, hope and caution warring in his expression. "Selina, I choose you, Reece." The words emerged clear and certain, carrying the weight of truth. "Not because I'm afraid to be alone. Not because I need protection or shelter. I choose you because you make me want to be brave. Because you see me, all of me, the broken parts and the healing parts, and you treat all of it with reverence. I choose you because my wolf recognizes her mate, and for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid to listen to her." A shudder ran through Reece's entire body. His wolf howled, an audible sound that carried across the gardens and into the night. Around Arncrest, other wolves took up the call, a chorus of celebration that their alpha had finally claimed his mate. "Are you sure?" Reece's voice was rough with emotion. "Once you accept this bond, once you choose me, I will never let you go. I will protect you, cherish you, fight for you until my last breath." "Are you ready for that?" "Yes," Selina whispered. "I'm ready." Reece closed the distance between them, his hands coming up to cup her face with infinite gentleness. "May I kiss you?" The question, the request for permission even now, made Selina's eyes burn with tears. She nodded, unable to speak. He kissed her like she was precious, like she was something to be treasured. His lips were gentle at first, questioning, and then deeper as she responded. The mate bond snapped fully into place, golden light flooding through Selina's veins, healing places she hadn't known were still wounded. Her wolf sang with joy, no longer broken, no longer silent. When they finally parted, both breathless, Reece pressed his forehead to hers. "My mate. My Luna. My Selina." "Yours," she agreed. "And you're mine. Always." Above them, the moon shone bright and full, blessing what the moon goddess had always intended. And in the gardens of Arncrest, two wolves who'd survived their respective darkness finally found their way home to each other. The nausea hit Selina 3 months after the mating ceremony, persistent and undeniable. She'd blamed it on rich food at first, then on nerves from her new responsibilities as Luna. But when the scent of Reece's morning coffee, something she'd always loved, sent her running for the washroom, Elena had given her a knowing look and insisted on an examination. Now Selina sat in the healing wing, her hand pressed to her still flat stomach, while Elena confirmed what her wolf had been trying to tell her for days. "You're pregnant, Luna. About 8 weeks along, I'd estimate." The words hung in the air, too enormous to fully comprehend. Pregnant. She was going to have a child. "But I can't," Selina's voice broke. "Darius said I was barren. That I was broken, that I could never give him heirs. It was one of the reasons he lied." Elena's expression was fierce. Or he was wrong. Either way, there is nothing broken about you. Your body simply needed time to heal from trauma before it could nurture new life. This child is strong, healthy, and very real. Tears streamed down Selina's face, not from sadness, but from overwhelming relief and joy. Another life from her past had crumbled, revealing truth underneath. She wasn't barren. She wasn't broken. She was whole, and she carried life within her. "Does anyone else know?" Selina asked. "Not yet. You should tell Alpha Reece first." Elena smiled gently. "Though I suspect he'll hear his child's heartbeat before you finish explaining." Selina found Reece in his study, reviewing territory maps with Marcus. Both males looked up as she entered, and Reece's expression immediately shifted to concern. "Selina? What's wrong?" She couldn't speak. Instead, she simply took his hand and placed it against her stomach, letting her wolf press the knowledge through their bond. Reece went completely still. His eyes widened, then filled with tears. "Is it? Are you?" "We're having a baby," Selina whispered. The map scattered to the floor as Reece pulled her into his arms, his large frame shaking with emotion. Marcus made a quiet exit, grinning broadly. Reece held her like she was made of glass, his face buried in her hair. "A child," he said, his voice thick. "Our child. Elena says they're healthy. Strong." Reece pulled back just enough to cup her face, tears tracking down his cheeks without shame. "May I?" She nodded, and he dropped to his knees before her, pressing his ear to her stomach. His wolf reached out, seeking, and then Selina felt it too, a tiny flutter of life, a heartbeat so small and fast it was like a hummingbird's wings. "Hello, little one," Reece whispered against her skin. "I'm your father. And I promise you'll never know a day without love." The pack's celebration shook the rafters of Arncrest's great hall. Warriors who'd fought battles without flinching wept openly. Females who'd supported Selina through her healing embraced her with fierce joy. The announcement that their Luna carried the next generation had transformed the entire territory into a festival of hope. "The moon goddess has blessed us," Mira declared, raising her cup. "Our Luna, who survived so much, will bring new life into our pack. This child will be born of strength, nurtured by love, and protected by all of us." The response was deafening approval. That night, as Selina and Reece lay in their chambers, his hand resting protectively over the place where their child grew, she thought about all the lies she'd believed about herself. Broken. Worthless. Barren. Each one had been shattered by the truth of who she actually was. "I need to do something," she said quietly. "Before the baby comes. Anything. I need to face my family. Not for them, for me. I need to close that chapter completely." Reece's hand tightened on her hip. "I'll be with you." 2 weeks later, Selina stood before the Council of Alphas, with Shadowfang's delegation seated in the front row. Her uncle, Alpha Gregory, looked older than she remembered, his face haggard. Her aunt wouldn't meet her eyes. And Darius watched her with barely concealed hatred. But Selina was no longer the frightened girl they'd tormented. She was Luna of Arncrest, mate to one of the strongest alphas in the region, and carrying new life. She stood tall, her hand resting on her still small bump, with Reece a solid presence at her side. "I've requested this audience to address the past," Selina began, her voice clear and steady. "For years, I believed the lies I was told. That I was worthless. That I deserved abuse. That I was somehow less than other wolves because I was different." Gregory shifted uncomfortably. "Good. But I've learned the truth. I was never the problem, you were. You, who took in an orphan child and treated her like a burden. You, who allowed your son to abuse his own blood. You, who convinced me I was broken when the only broken things were your hearts." "Selina," Gregory started. "I'm not finished." Her wolf's presence strengthened her words. "I could hate you. The moon goddess knows I have reason to. But I've learned that carrying hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So I'm choosing something different." She took a breath, feeling Reece's support through their bond. "I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, you don't. But because I deserve peace. I forgive you so I can move forward without your shadows following me. I forgive you so my child will be born into love, not bitterness." Silence filled the chamber. Her aunt was crying quietly, her uncle's face had drained of color, and even Darius looked shaken. "But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation," Selina continued. "You will have no place in my life or my child's life. This is goodbye, final and complete. I hope you find a way to live with what you've done." She turned to leave, and Reece moved with her, his hand at the small of her back. As they exited the chamber, Selina felt the last weight lift from her shoulders. The past no longer had power over her. She was finally completely free. Years passed like pages turning in a beloved book. Selina gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. who inherited Reece's storm-colored eyes and her resilient spirit. 2 years later, another son arrived, loud and boisterous from his first breath. The pack house rang with children's laughter, and Selina discovered that motherhood suited her in ways she'd never imagined. She became known throughout the region as Ironcrest's most beloved Luna. Wolves from neighboring packs sought her counsel, knowing she understood suffering and could offer genuine wisdom. She established a sanctuary for wolves escaping abusive packs, ensuring no one would endure what she had. The healing wing expanded under her guidance, training new generations of healers. But her greatest joy remained the simple moments: breakfast with her family, watching her children play in the gardens, falling asleep in Reece's arms each night. One autumn evening, as the sun painted the sky in shades of amber and gold, Selina stood at the garden overlook. Her children played below, their laughter carrying on the wind. Her daughter was teaching her brothers to track, her voice patient and encouraging. So much like Reece. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, and Reece's chin came to rest on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything," Selina said softly. "How far we've come. How different life is from what I expected. Better or worse?" "Infinitely better." She turned in his embrace, her hand coming up to trace the beloved lines of his face. Silver threaded more heavily through his hair now, and new scars marked his skin from years of protecting their pack. He'd never looked more handsome to her. "Do you remember what Darius called me?" "A punishment sent by the moon goddess." Reece's expression darkened. "I try not to remember anything about him. I need you to hear this." Selina pressed her palm to his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong beneath her touch. "I was never a punishment. I understand that now. All the suffering, all the pain, it led me here. To you. To them." She gestured toward their children. "To a life I never dreamed I deserved. I was meant for you, Reece. Always." His eyes grew bright with emotion. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips, gentle affirmations of love that had only deepened with time. When he pulled back, his smile was radiant. "You were the treasure the moon goddess crafted just for me," he said, his voice rough with feeling. "Every scar you carry, every moment of strength you showed, every tear you shed, all of it made you into the remarkable wolf standing before me. My mate. My Luna. The love of my eternal life." Below them, their daughter's laugh rang out as she tackled her brother in a playful wrestling match. Their youngest howled his approval, the sound still puppy-high and endearing. "Our legacy," Reece murmured. "Children born of love, raised in strength, who will never know what it means to be broken by those who should protect them." "Our legacy," Selina agreed. As the moon rose above Ironcrest, casting silver light across the territory they'd built together, Selina leaned into her mate's embrace. She thought of the frightened, abused girl she'd been. The one who'd believed she was worthless, who'd thought she'd die without ever knowing love. That girl was gone, transformed by healing and devotion into someone powerful. Someone whole. The moon goddess had known all along. She'd crafted two broken souls and brought them together, not to complete each other, but to walk beside each other, equal, devoted, and infinitely precious. Selina had been rejected, abused, and cast aside. But she'd survived. More than that, she'd thrived. And in thriving, she'd become exactly what she was always meant to be. Not a punishment. A treasure. And treasures, once truly recognized, are cherished forever.